Yeah, and I've struggled in the past with being a perfectionist. And
Oh, yes.
you could spend a week, a month, a year trying to figure out, I want to do this one thing, whatever it is, and I want it to be perfect,
Hmm.
but you might not have a year to live.
Right.
Life is so short. That's another thing I learned. Life is so short.
Hey, mamas. Welcome to the More Than a Mother podcast, where we believe you can pursue your dreams and be a great mother at the same time. I am your host, LaJuan Moses, and I am helping you find the freedom to live. Are you ready? Let's go. Hey friends, welcome back to the More Than a Mother podcast. This is your host, LaJuan Moses, and I am back with you again for another great episode. If this is your first time listening at More Than a Mother podcast, we are helping moms to create a life outside of motherhood without sacrificing their family time. We believe that moms can pursue their dreams and be great moms at the same time. My guest today is Miss Sarah Grace Hart of SG Hart International. Sarah is a wife and new mom who joined us today to talk about her own struggle with depression and how she was able to use positive affirmations to evoke change in her life and really start to rediscover the joy in life so that she could start to accomplish more of her dreams and goals and feel fulfilled as a woman, a wife, and a mother. Sarah sat down today and was very open with her story. She talked about the importance of having faith, but also the importance of seeking professional help and going to counseling, as well as sharing with us 7 tips to help moms who right now may be struggling to manage it all. Let's dive in to my interview with Sarah Grace.
Hey, Sarah Grace, how are you?
I'm great. How are you? I'm so excited to be on the show tonight or
I
today.
am
I guess it depends on when you hear it.
I am wonderful. Welcome to the More Than a Mother show. And as you said, you're excited to be here. I'm excited to have you here. But before we get into our great conversation, can you go ahead and introduce yourself to our audience?
Sure. My name is Sarah Hart. I live in Madison, Mississippi, and I've loved listening to your show and hearing from all the awesome moms around the world. It's just been incredible.
Oh, well, thank you. I'm glad that it's been inspirational to you. I mean, the more conversation that I'm having with more moms, it's just resonating with so many people. So I'm just glad that you've been able to pull from it and then also that you're here to share with us the thing that you are doing and your story as well. So, as you know, at More Than a Mother, we are big on storytelling and we believe that you can pursue your dreams and be a great mom at the same time. However, none of us wake up and we have our dreams and goals figured out and know what we want to do with our life and are on the path that we have paved for ourselves today. So, can you share with our audience what was that transformational moment or aha moment that you had that put you on the path that you're on today?
Sure, no problem. So I would go back to 2015, and I'm laying in my bed, staring at the ceiling, and I'm completely and utterly depressed. And I've struggled with depression throughout my life, ever since I was a kid, since I was a child, and my father passed away. But this time it really didn't make sense because before I had lost somebody had died, and I was grieving. But this time everything was fine. I was in the best place I'd ever been in my entire life. I was married happily. I had everything I needed. I had a drop top convertible 350Z that my husband got from work. Everything seemed perfect, right? But inside I was a mess. And so I did what I had done in the past, and I turned on a motivational video. And I learned 3 things that day that completely changed my life, and I'd love to share those with you.
Yes,
3 things I learned that day. I don't know if anybody's heard of Lisa Nichols.
yes.
She's a motivational speaker. I had never heard of her until that day. And she talked about your relationship towards money. She talked about a thing called cognitive dissonance, and she talked about positive affirmation. And that next day, I started positive affirmation. 30 minutes a day for the next week, and it completely changed my life. I didn't realize that I had a negative self-talk going on in my head, and I was beating myself up all the time, and I was struggling with loving myself. And I was just kind of empty. So that's kind of where it started. From that point on, my life, my relationships changed, my life changed. Everything has been different since that moment in my life.
Yes, that's understandable. And I have heard of Lisa Nichols, and definitely positive affirmations go a long way. Because I think a lot of mothers, a lot of women, we struggle with that negative self talk, and we don't realize how the messages that we tell ourselves impact how we show up in our lives, in our relationships, and everything that we do. And there is a lot of power behind affirming to yourself those positive messages and that positive self talk, because the same way that the negative will follow the negative, the positive follows the positive.
Right.
Yes. So when you mentioned that you struggled with depression like your whole life, and as someone that struggled with depression in the past, when you found yourself like in these depressed moments and you came across these affirmations, like as you were making this transition, like did you encounter any type of obstacles or difficulties in like the messages you were telling yourself and those type of things?
Yes, for sure. It's funny because that week I went through a little exercise on my own, and I went through the alphabet. So I said, if I can think of one word for every letter in the alphabet that is about me, what would they be? And I started with A, and it was not a good word. It
Oh
was not
wow.
awesome. It was not. And then I went to B, C, D, and all of these words were negative. So I
Wow.
literally took time, and it takes a lot of work. I went through the alphabet and came up with positive words for myself, because it's like reprogramming your brain.
Yes,
so
it is.
so I would say the difficulties, yes, difficulties in it takes work, it takes time. So I had to carve out time in the morning to do this work on myself. And then of course you're tested. So sometimes, in life you have relationships, and you might be used to overreacting sometimes or getting emotional. And I had to take a step back and go back to the mirror and work on myself, because ultimately it was a self issue. It wasn't about the other person, it was about me, and nobody else should be able to control my emotions. So that was, tests came up. They still come up, and
Right.
it's still a work in progress.
And I think that was just displayed in your alphabet challenge, how there are all these words that you could describe yourself with that are positive, but we automatically go to the negative with those words. And just the part about reprogramming, because it's just the messages that we tell ourselves. We have to reprogram our brain and reprogram the things that we do. And it's a constant learning journey. As you were going through this, what did you discover about yourself during this process?
I think I rediscovered some joy in life, and I discovered that I was spending too much time thinking about the past, or worrying about the past, or worrying about the future, and not living in the moment, in the now. And when I started living in the now, then I could focus a lot better on what do I need to do right now? What's my next step? Despite what anybody else thinks, despite what else is going on, what can I do in the now? So that was good to be able to change in a way that the past and the future aren't controlling me, if that makes sense.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense because a lot of us get caught up in the past and thinking about what we should have done, could have done, would have done, but we don't realize that being stuck on the past, I mean, we can't change the past. All we can change is how we do things from here on out. So that makes
Right.
perfect sense.
Yeah, and I've struggled in the past with being a perfectionist,
Oh,
and
yes.
you could spend a week, a month, a year trying to figure out, I want to do this one thing, whatever it is, and I want it to be perfect,
Hmm.
but you might not have a year to live.
Right.
Life is so short. That's another thing I learned. Life is so short. Action, action, action. Take the first step, whatever that is. And if it's not perfect, try again. And that was helpful to me, to be able to just give up perfectionism and go for what I thought in the moment was the right thing to do, if that makes sense.
Yeah, because a lot of us are perfectionists. As a person that still struggles with the perfection, and I've gotten a lot better, but I think that's something that's hard to let go because I'm one that likes things to be in order. I want to know how it's going to work out and have a whole plan in place. But then what you find is that when you're in that perfectionist trap, you get stuck because you don't take action because you're waiting for everything to line up. So then you're not doing anything. So then it kind of just keeps you at like a stalled point. So I can definitely relate to that part about how you have to learn to live in the moment because time is waiting for no one. Life is passing way too fast, and you just have to start and do it. And then you kind of figure it out as you're going along.
Right.
Yeah. So, how would you say that these affirmations and all have helped you in your business and your life and just things that you are doing? How would you say that reprogramming yourself has kind of helped you move along in life?
I would say it's given me more confidence, and it it well, confidence, I guess, is the key. It's one of the keys. There's a lot of keys, but positive affirmations, it's a I think the thing about it is, I've been a Christian for as long as I can remember, years and years, and the thing that was extra depressing in that moment in 2015 is I was feeling guilty because I if you're a Christian and you pray and you read your Bible and you memorize scripture and you do all of these things, and I was still sad. So it was a compound. I don't know how you can say it, like doubly depressed
Right.
because I was sad, and then I was extra sad because I knew I shouldn't be sad. So the thing about positive affirmations is it was a practical exercise that I could implement and actually see change in myself. Because I think, a lot of us, if you're a Christian, you're taught to do, pray, read your Bible, sing, do these things, but sometimes we aren't taught, if we have particular struggles like depression, practical things that you can implement into your life to help with things like that. Does that make
Right.
sense?
Yes, that makes perfect sense. Yes, because as a Christian myself, I can completely relate. And when you're going through those times and everyone's like, okay, pray, have faith, X, Y, and Z, it's like, yes, I do pray. Yes, I read scripture. Yes, I have faith. But at the end of the day, there's a reason why all these things exist together because, yes, prayer and God and everything, He handles everything. But then we also need those practical ways. And I think a lot of Christians, we get caught up because the messages that we hear are to pray, have faith, etc. And then we totally ignore the part about taking care of our mental health and doing things like positive affirmations. And it's like that can supplement your Christianity and your prayer life and all. That's giving you something tangible to hold on to. And there's nothing wrong with that.
Exactly. And along with that note is having a counselor on hand. I moved to Mississippi. It's almost been 5 years now. And before I got married, I had a counselor and worked with the counselor for several months. And we did a lot of, I don't know if are you familiar with EMDR?
No, I'm not. What's that?
EMDR is it's it's a therapy for people who struggle with PTSD.
Okay.
uh,
Yeah.
and it works with your eye movement as well as sensors on your hands. Long story short, that therapy helped me in incredible ways in my life at that point, and helped me work through some things that had happened in my past. So along with positive affirmation isn't a cure-all.
Right.
It has changed my life significantly. I wish I had known about it back
Right.
then, but the EMDR therapy was critical for me. It may not be for you or other people, but if you aren't familiar with that, I encourage anybody who is struggling with some things to look into that and to have a counselor on hand. I love what you're doing because we can talk as women and kind of destigmatize some of these things that some people, like mental health,
Right.
struggle with.
Right. And I think, and that's important, like mental health, because depression, those type of things, they are real. And as much, no matter how much faith you have as a Christian, mental health is an issue that we all face. And a lot of times it was for too long where the church didn't talk about mental health and taking care of your mental health. And there was this stigma for Christians about seeking help. But these conversations kind of help us break it down, because I know that's what helped me through, along with prayer and everything. Seeing a counselor, seeing a psychiatrist during that time is something that helped me through. And it's
Right.
just important to let people know that it's okay to go see a counselor, a therapist, someone to help you with your mental health. And it doesn't make you any less of a Christian, any less of a believer to say that this is depression I'm dealing with or whatever the issue is. So you are a mother, and if my understanding, you have a young baby, correct?
I do. I have a
Yeah.
9-month-old.
Oh,
You
wow.
might be able to hear him crying in the background.
It's okay. That's mom life, see? But this is the perfect podcast for that.
He's with his dad. He's
Oh,
okay.
yes, they are okay, but it's always like no one can do it like mom. So, how has that transition into motherhood for you? How has that impacted, like with motherhood, in that transition been?
It has been, I'm going to be honest, the toughest thing I've ever done in my entire life. It's funny, before we had Briggs, my son, I looked at James and I was like, oh, we can do this. It's going to be easy. And we had just started, I had just come home full time from a very stressful job, and I was kind of his right-hand man, and his passion, his woodworking business. And I was out there woodworking and doing this and doing that. And then I got pregnant, and it changed everything. It's been very difficult to run that business and be a mom and manager and XYZ. So it is tough. It's
Yeah,
tough.
it is. It definitely is tough. And no matter how old your children get, they're always going to need you on some level, and you're always learning how to navigate. So I hate to be like the spoiler alert, but guess what? It stays tough. It's just
It's be real, be real. That's
my
all I can
kids,
be.
yeah, my kids are older, but trust me, it's still tough because at each age, at each stage, there is just something new and something different that you have to learn to navigate. But luckily, like moms have these, I hate to say superpowers because I don't think we're superheroes, but somehow we just manage to figure it out. So, I mean, I think that's one of the great strengths that we have. Yeah.
Yes.
So tell me about your business, because you just mentioned the business that you have going on. So tell me more about your business ventures that you have going on.
Sure. So SKU Shop is our custom woodwork home-based business. We have a CNC machine. It's practically a robot that we can program and make different things, and we sell those on Etsy. And then I also started a passion project called Our Red Journal. It's a journal that's traveling around the world. It's for women, young and old, and they can share 2 to 3 pages of a story about life, love, or loss. And it's the goal of that is to connect women. And of course, everybody's aware of the virus going on now, and that may kind of change what that that was going to look
Right.
like. My heart's kind of broken over that, but not just because of that, but a lot of different things. But so that might turn into more of a blog,
Okay.
because I don't know that a pass it off journal, it's going to be
Right.
good, especially in this time. Yeah. So, and then I started speaking. So I'll be speaking in Texas, Lord willing, next month. That may get canceled considering everything that's going on, but I'm excited about that. And I also started a book that's about pregnancy, postpartum, and labor. So I was so excited about this opportunity because I am taking experience from women. So if you have experience with postpartum depression, postpartum anxiety, or if you've had a miscarriage and you want to share part of your story to the book, I would love to hear from you. I can give you all the details for that, but
Yes.
women are encouraged to message me with a short quote, and I can add that to the book. So I'm super excited about that as well.
That's awesome. And I just love your community effort. I mean, in addition to your Etsy shop, because that is a whole nother level of talent that I couldn't even imagine where to start or how that would look. So that's just incredible in itself. But that's how you and I connected with the Our Red Journal. And I just think that it's such a great passion project to have. And when you told me about it being passed around and going to different people, I just think that's great. And even though we're going through this pandemic and international global crisis at this moment, the fact that it could still be turned into a virtual online kind of platform, I still think it could have that same impact. And probably be even more powerful because then you're reaching more people at a time. And I just think that is great, just compiling stories. Because what I found from doing these interviews is that a lot of people have commonalities in their stories and in their journeys. I mean, it may look different, but when you get down to the basics and the basis of it, there are a lot of common themes that happen.
Exactly. You're so right. I was listening to your podcast today, and I heard some of those snippets of the other ladies that you've interviewed, and I'm so excited. I can't wait to hear their story. I'm just super excited about that.
And I'm just so thankful that so many people have just been willing to, like, yes, I'll come on. Yes, I'll share my story, because you never know. Not everyone's in that same place of being transparent and being open. But I just feel like the more conversations we have like this, the more moms, the more women will be willing to step up and say, yes, this is my story. This is my journey. And it creates that community and that platform of comfort to where everyone is okay with not hiding behind those perfect social media images, but showing like the realness of life.
Yes.
I hope you are enjoying this episode as much as I am. Before we dive back into this great episode, I just wanted to take a moment and answer one of the most frequent questions that I get asked all the time. People are constantly asking me, Lawan, how do you do it all? You're working, running a business, raising a family, you have a podcast, a spouse, a life, and you are just doing all these things. Girl, I need to know, how are you doing it? Well, I'm excited to announce to you that I have put together a signature process for how I get it all done. My course, From Overwhelmed to Organized, Managing Family, Business, and All Things in Between, will finally answer the questions for you as to how I do it all. This course is designed to help you stop being busy, help you figure out work-life balance, how to set boundaries, and get your priorities in order. And we do all of this in this course and so much more. I mean, are you tired of feeling stressed, overwhelmed, and anxious? Are you ready to reduce that overwhelm and minimize the guilt in all areas of your life? And how about that work-life balance thing that is just always there? Are you ready to stop struggling to achieve it and instead find a way to create a plan to become more productive and less busy? Because time is of value and I don't want you wasting any more time spinning your wheels, I put together this course to help you dive through and answer all those questions and come up with your own process to get it all done. That's right. I do this every day. I do it all the time. I would not teach you anything that I have not actively done myself. So if you are ready to go from overwhelmed to organized and finally get things in your life in order and get your plate a little more balanced out so that you can reach that state of feeling balanced and not just constantly chase after work-life balance, I invite you to head over to my website or click the link in the show notes so that you can get enrolled in the course From Overwhelmed to Organized, Managing Family, Business, and All Things in Between. I can't wait to see you inside the course and take this journey with you. This course is truly life-changing. It is a process that you can use over and over again. And trust me, I wouldn't give you anything that I don't do myself. So believe me, I know it works because here I am on this podcast and doing all the things, and I still have my sanity. And best of all, I'm doing all of it without sacrificing my family time. So if that sounds like a plan to you, hit the link in the show notes or head over to my website and sign up now for my course From Overwhelmed to Organized. Now back to this great episode.
So you mentioned with your journal and all that stuff. So what kind of led you to say, I want to start this journal? I want to be on this path of doing this community level collaborative project. What led you to that?
Sure. So some of you ladies out there, I don't know if you've experienced this, but if you work shoulder to shoulder with your husband, you'll learn real fast that you both bring different things to the table, and you both have different ideas of what you want for a business. So I found myself kind of pushing what I wanted onto the custom woodworks business, and it just wasn't working. And so I realized that I had dreams and goals and visions that I wanted to accomplish. So I knew I needed to start something that was kind of my baby, if that makes sense. So ever since my dad passed away, journaling has been huge in my life. I've always had a journal, and even the past 10 years, I get a journal every year, and I write in it and take notes and do this and that. So I love journals and journaling. And I had a friend a few years ago, and I got and he was going to take me somewhere. We were getting in his car, and he pulled out a journal, and he had a journal in his car that whenever you wrote in his car, you would draw a picture or write a story or
Wow.
sign it. So I thought that was so cool. So I turned my journal into more of a community journal at that time in my life. And whenever I went to a gathering, I would share my journal, and people could draw in it and do this or that. And then a year and a half or 2 years ago, I thought, well, I get this journal. What if I actually shared it with the world and started this Our Red journal and ask other women to actually contribute to it? Because growing up, I felt like there's this big disconnect between younger women and older women,
Hmm.
and I was missing some of that wisdom that I really, really needed.
Yes.
So I was hoping that this journal could help kind of build a bridge between the generations, so younger women can kind of get an idea of, you know, this life is not a fairy tale. Bad things
Right.
happen, good things happen too. And so my hope was that this journal would open up some of those stories, bring some of that wisdom, and hopefully that it would travel around the world and maybe have contributions from all countries around the world.
That's awesome. And I think that's very innovative and creative. I mean, something as simple as journaling, something that everyone can do. Because I mean, journaling in itself to me is a healing practice. I'm like you, always been one to journal, document those type of things, and then you're able to look back and reflect on your growth and changes throughout the years, and just the fact that you turned it into something that's a community effort. I mean, that's amazing. I really love that.
Thank you. I'm super excited about it.
Yes, that is, and I just can't wait to see all you're going to do and how it's going to evolve, and all, even in the midst of this crisis that's happening. It's just going to look different, but I still feel it'll have that great impact.
I hope so.
So, as a mom, how are you managing it all? I know you said that it's the toughest thing you've ever done, and you have the new baby, but how are you making it work?
Ooh, so some days it's many days it's a struggle. I broke it down in my mind. So spiritually, physically, mentally, then you have your housework and your marriage and the business itself. So spiritually, for us, making that a priority in our life, meeting with the church when we can. Now it's maybe online, that's fine. There's still opportunity now that we're online. You can help bring a Bible study together online. There's so many opportunities there. If you can't teach a Bible class at church, you could do that. Physically, trying to walk or work out 3 times a week is really important. When Briggs was just 4 months old, we were toting him to the gym in his little car seat, and he was watching us work out. Of course, that changes as they get older. What that looks like changes. Business-wise, business is tough. Sometimes I've had to get a babysitter to come with me on sales calls. Briggs is out in the car with the babysitter while I'm trying to make a sale. Sometimes it looks like getting up at 4 o'clock in the morning to get the social media kicked out of the way. Automation. So we've been looking at different automation tools to try to make that better. You know that you just wear so many different hats,
Yes,
right?
yes,
When
definitely.
when Briggs was smaller, sleep is really important. Taking care of yourself is really important. So the dishes, they'd pile up. Laundry would pile up, and that's okay. And now he's gotten bigger. The house is, I have more time for the house. So just making, prioritizing those different things. Marriage, I just realized this month, I mean, he's 9 months old, that we still need a date night.
Yes,
so,
that is important.
I mean, we had our first date night last month, and we're hoping to keep that up, but it's a lot. It's a lot.
It's definitely a lot, but I like how you broke it down in the different categories so we can see and hear how you're able to kind of categorize that and make sure like these are things that I need to do. So then you're able to build out those priorities. So I never thought to break it down in categories. So to me, that's genius in itself because that right there gives a whole new level of when we're trying to manage and prioritize. If we have the different categories of our life that are priorities and then the priorities within those categories, it kind of helps to put it all in perspective. And I'm a very visual person. So, yes, I learned something from that because I never would have
Oh,
thought to break
good.
it down in categories.
It doesn't mean I've mastered it, but
Oh, yeah. I don't think there is a such thing. I mean, we're just all out here doing the best we can with juggling it all, managing it all. I don't think there is a such thing as mastering it. We can do it to the best of our ability, but something new will always pop up no matter what.
right.
Yeah. So, what would you say has been the most rewarding part of your journey so far?
So if you'd asked me this 3 weeks ago, it probably would have been different. But last week, my son took his first consecutive 5 steps.
Oh,
And to be honest, that has trumped everything. I never knew how special that moment would be, but all the nights staying up, the broken sleep, the reflux, the diapers, trying to do the business and that, everything came down to that moment. I mean, it really did. I mean, I felt something I'd never felt before in my life.
that's wonderful. I mean, and that's important because it's all about moments and it all depends. Like, those rewarding moments can change over time, but it's something as simple as those first consecutive steps because that's a first, and it's not, you'll never experience that first again. So, even something like that can be very rewarding and very encouraging and enriching and everything. So, I think that is a great moment, and just those firsts are just things to treasure and moments to preserve. So, yes.
Right.
So, what tip would you have to offer to a mom that may be struggling to find her way or manage it all?
I've got a lot of tips. How many do you
Yeah.
want?
However many you want to give us. I mean, hey, I am all for tips and helping people, so you can
All right.
share your tips.
Let's break it down in 7 tips. First tip, get plugged in with a church and get a mentor. So a few weeks ago, I was really struggling, and a woman from church came to my house and helped me, and she mentored me, and it changed my week and my month. And she gave me tools that I didn't even see at the moment to get through that week. So getting a mentor and a church family, I think, is number 1. Number 2 is listen, listen, listen. The first year of business here at the house, I listened to probably over 100 hours of business podcast, online podcast, just information. Listen, listen, listen. You don't have to reinvent the wheel. Number 3, get help. Get help. We are so bad about this sometimes, at least
Yes.
I am. We try to do everything on our own.
Yes, we do.
I started getting a babysitter for just 3 hours a week while I'm at the house, and it's changed everything. It's given me a little bit more of a mental break, and I've had time to get things done. 4, systems and automation. Systems. I am still learning this, but getting things set up for your business on automation and systems. This is a simple example. Your Instagram posts can flow through Facebook. Simple as that. Connect those systems and you won't have to be double posting.
Yes.
Number 5, have at least 1 to 2 things that you will do in one day. You may think, well, that's not enough, but in reality, we may make a list of 10 things and we don't get one thing done and we still feel overwhelmed. So just do 1 or 2 things toward your goal a day, and you will be making those baby steps toward your goal. Number 6 is self-care, self-care, self-care. And you can go to my personal Instagram page. I kind of harp on self-care because I struggle with it myself.
Mm-hmm.
We can't serve with an empty cup, and we've got to take care of ourselves. And then 7, write it down. There is something about getting a pencil and writing down your goals, your dreams. If you write them as if you've already accomplished them, that also does something in your brain that gets you kind of going. Having a calendar or a journal that you're tracking things, literally writing it down. I can make an appointment in my calendar on my iPhone that I will ignore. But if I write it down and I go back to that written note, there's something different about it. I just don't know what it is.
I know. I can relate to that because I was like, in 2020, I'm going to go electronic and do my calendar and do everything electronic. And I tell you, that probably lasted. I don't even think I made it to 2020 because at first I didn't buy a 2020 calendar. So I'm like, I'm just doing electronic. I don't even think I made it to January before I was like, oh no, it's something about having just a regular calendar and writing stuff down and then having pen and paper. I don't care where I put it electronically. I am with you. It's something about having it written down in front of you and writing. So yes, we're on that same
Yes.
page. I don't care how digital I go. I still have pen and paper.
Yeah. So those are just a
Yes.
few tips I've got for
Yes,
you.
I love those. We'll call those Sarah Grace's 7 tips to help moms manage. I love those tips. Yes, yes. So Sarah Grace, tell us where we can find you online.
Sure. So Sarah Grace _ HEART is my Instagram, Sarah Grace Heart. And of course, I'm on Facebook as Sarah Grace. Our Red Journal has their own page, Our Red Journal, and that's on Instagram and Facebook. And then SKU Shop is also on all of those things as well: Instagram, Facebook, Twitter, etc.
That's awesome. And I'll be sure to link to that in the show notes so that everyone can find you and find Our Red Journal and SKU Shop. So I just thank you for joining me today. This interview was great, and I am so glad that you were my guest today.
Thank you so much for having me. I'm so excited about this, and I really appreciate everything that you're doing.
Thanks so much.
How are you feeling about the More Than a Mother podcast? If you are enjoying this podcast, if you are enjoying this episode, please take a moment and screenshot this episode and share it with your network. Like, subscribe, leave a review, and share. Share this greatness with all the moms, all the women that you know, so that they can get in on this great More Than a Mother experience. This is truly a movement, truly something that I do for all of you and not just myself, because I really want to see a nation of empowered mothers who are out here living their dreams, pursuing their goals, and doing all of this without sacrificing family time or feeling guilty. So don't keep the greatness to yourself. Share this with all of your friends. Invite them to listen to the More Than a Mother podcast. I'm so excited and happy to have you on this journey, and I cannot wait to see all of your friends here as well. Thanks so much for listening. If you enjoyed this episode, head over to lawanmoses.com. I love for us to stay in touch. Make sure you leave your email address so I can send you inspiration, tips, and the latest updates. Or, if you prefer, text the word MORE, that's MORE, to 302-440-4632. We have some great things coming up, and I don't want you to miss a thing. Thanks again. Make sure you subscribe and leave a review. Until next time, keep pressing because victory is yours.